The battle that took her smoke filled the sky. Explosions shook the ground. The alien city of Virelon was burning. Ships screamed through the air above, firing lasers and missiles. Civilians ran in panic. Buildings fell like paper under fire. Queen Thalara of the Virelian Empire stood outside her palace. Her silver gown was torn. Her long lavender hair blew wildly in the hot wind. She didn't care. Her heart beat fast, not with fear, but with one thought. "Where is my daughter?" "Ziriel!" she shouted. "Ziriel!" Her guards begged her to return inside. "Your Highness, please. The enemy is breaking through the walls." But the queen ignored them. She stepped onto the crumbling palace steps and scanned the streets. Somewhere in the chaos was her daughter, only 5 years old, small, with glowing violet eyes and soft silver skin. Moments ago, a blast had shaken the palace nursery. When Thalara ran in, Ziriel was gone. Just gone. No one had seen her leave. No one had taken her. It was like she vanished into smoke. Tears burned the queen's eyes. She ran down the steps, calling the name again. "Ziriel!" Far across the battlefield, a human soldier named Jason Ward was dragging wounded civilians to safety. He had been sent on a peacekeeping mission, but everything had gone wrong. The moment he saw the enemy forces storm the planet, he knew this was no peace mission. This was a slaughter. Jason turned a corner and stopped. His heart clenched. There, sitting behind a broken crate, was a little girl. She was shivering. Her feet were cut. Her silver hair was wet with blood, but not hers. She hugged a toy and looked up at him with glowing violet eyes. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "Mommy?" Jason looked around. Blasts hit nearby. A building collapsed. If he left her, she would die. If he stayed, they'd both die. He had a choice. Without another thought, he dropped his rifle, lifted the girl into his arms, and ran. Back at the palace, Queen Thalara was pulled away by guards. They had no choice. The enemy was minutes away. They forced her into an escape ship. She kicked and screamed. "Find my daughter," she cried. "She's alive. I feel it. I feel it." The ship launched into the stars. Behind her, the city burned. Jason ran for miles, dodging fire, slipping through shadows. He didn't stop even when his legs gave out. He just kept going. The girl in his arms never spoke again. She clung to his neck, trusting a stranger. That night, they found an old bunker in the forest. He wrapped her in his coat and gave her water. She finally looked up and asked, "Where's my mom?" Jason stared at the fire. I don't know. Will she come?" Jason looked into her big eyes. He couldn't lie, but he couldn't tell the truth either. So he said softly, "Maybe." The girl's lips trembled. Then she closed her eyes and slept in his arms. The next morning, Jason sent a signal to command. He requested extraction. No one answered. The war had spread. His people were pulling out. No one was coming back to that planet. He looked at the girl again. Alone, lost. Royal blood, maybe, but no longer safe in this galaxy. He made a decision. He would not return her. He would protect her, raise her, hide her, even if it meant breaking laws, even if it meant betraying the galaxy, because she was just a child, and no one else would save her. Far across space, Queen Thalara sat in her throne on a new, quiet moon. Her empire had survived, but barely. She held her daughter's toy in her hands every night. She looked to the stars and whispered the same thing, again and again. "Please, bring her back to me." And somewhere far away, a small alien girl woke in a strange human's home. She no longer remembered her name, but every night she dreamed of a woman with silver hair, calling her name through fire. 12 years had passed. On a small green planet far from the royal stars, a quiet human village sat between mountains and rivers. It was peaceful. The people were kind. But in one little home, a secret lived. Her name was now Lyra. She was not human. Her violet eyes and silver hair made her different. But no one asked questions. People in the village only whispered, "That's Jason's daughter. He saved her during the war." And they left it at that. Jason Ward had built a quiet life. A small house, a garden. He taught Lyra how to read, how to hunt, how to fix old machines. But he never told her where she came from. Never said the word princess, never said alien queen. Never told her the truth because he knew. If anyone found out, they'd take her away. Lyra stood in the backyard watching the sky. She liked to count the stars before bed. But tonight, she whispered to herself, "Why do I look different?" Jason came out with 2 cups of tea. "It's getting cold." She turned to him. "Dad, do I have a mom?" Jason froze. He didn't answer right away. Then he knelt down. "Everyone has a mother, Lyra. Yours. She was very brave." "Where is she now?" Jason looked up at the stars. "Somewhere far. Very far." "Does she miss me?" Jason swallowed hard. "I think she never stopped missing you." The next morning, Lyra went to the town's small library. She searched for books about alien planets, empires, star queens, anything. But the librarian shook her head. "That stuff's locked. Too dangerous. Too political." Lyra frowned. Her heart told her something wasn't right. She had dreams sometimes of a woman with silver hair crying, reaching out, calling a name. Not Lyra. Another name. Ziriel, she whispered once in her sleep. Jason heard it, and he knew the truth was starting to come back. That same week, a strange ship landed near the village. It didn't look like the others. It was sleek, black, and old. Out stepped a tall man with red armor and a scar across his face. He showed the local officer a badge. "I'm here on research, looking for someone with alien blood." Jason's blood turned cold when he heard. That night he rushed home, locked the doors, and told Lyra, "You can't go out, not for a few days." "Why?" she asked. "Just trust me." But Lyra didn't want to stay hidden anymore. She snuck out the back door after midnight. The stars called to her. The wind felt different. Her heart beat faster. She went up the hill above the village where the night sky opened wide and stared upward. "I'm not from here. Am I?" she asked the stars. Behind her, the strange man in red armor watched from the shadows. He touched a device on his wrist and whispered, "Target located. The lost princess lives." Back at the house, Jason was packing. He had seen the ship. He had seen the man. And he knew what was coming. "They found her," he said to himself, "after all these years." He opened a secret box from under the floor. Inside was an old communicator with a broken signal chip. He hadn't used it in a decade. But now he had no choice. He turned it on. Static buzzed. Jason took a deep breath and said just 2 words. "She's alive." Across the galaxy, on a massive floating throne world, Queen Thalara was in her private chamber. Her face was older now, her body thin, but her eyes still burned with hope. A beep echoed from the old war console. A voice played. "She's alive." The queen dropped the cup in her hand. It shattered on the floor. She gasped, "Ziriel." Queen Thalara stood alone in the Hall of Stars. 12 long years had passed since the fire took her daughter. 12 years since her arms held only ashes and memory. And yet, she still waited. Each night she looked at the sky through the palace's glass ceiling and whispered her name. Ziriel. No one dared speak when she did this. No one reminded her of the searches, the missions, the empty graves. No one told her to stop hoping, because the queen had never truly stopped feeling her. And tonight, her heart beat differently. Her royal advisor entered quietly. "Your Majesty," he said gently, "you haven't eaten." "I'm not hungry." "You have not rested." "I have waited." He hesitated. "The council begs you. Please accept that she is gone." Queen Thalara turned slowly, eyes glowing with anger and pain. She is not gone. A mother knows. The room fell silent. Deep in the palace, the queen had built something in secret, the Chamber of Search. It was filled with maps, messages, and star charts. Every signal, every rumor, every whisper of a child with violet eyes across the galaxy. She had spent a fortune, sent scouts, hired spies, paid for silence, but each report came back empty, or false. Still she marked the stars. Still she kept count. 473 failed leads. 0 truths, until now. The ancient communicator on her throne beeped. The sound was faint, the signal weak. She ran toward it. Her hands shook, a voice played. Broken, low, but clear. She's alive. Queen Thalara dropped to her knees. Say it again, she cried. Please, again. The voice did not return. But it was enough. She summoned the War Council. I want a ship ready in 1 hour, she said. Small, fast, quiet. Your Majesty? Her generals asked. Where are you going? To find my daughter, one general spoke carefully. And if it is another false hope, the queen stood tall, then let me die chasing it. As her ship launched through the darkness, Queen Thalara touched the old toy her daughter once held. She had kept it all, these years. The edges were worn smooth by her fingers. She closed her eyes. Memory returned, a laugh. Tiny feet running in palace halls. Mommy! Warm hugs, a crown too big for her head. Then, fire, smoke, a scream, silence. Tears rolled down the queen's cheeks. But this time they weren't just tears of pain, they were tears of hope. Meanwhile, on the green planet, Jason watched the stars from his roof. He knew she was coming. He had sent the signal. He had broken his own vow. But it was time. He looked inside the house where Lyra, Ziriel, was sleeping peacefully, unaware that her true mother flew across galaxies to find her. In the forest, beyond the village, the red-armored hunter watched through binoculars. The queen is coming, he said into his calm. A voice replied, cold and cruel. Let her. We'll take them both. The wind changed that morning. Lyra stood by the river tossing small stones into the water. Birds flew overhead. Sunlight touched the leaves. But something felt wrong. The animals were quiet, too quiet. Behind her, a man stood watching. He wore a long coat, boots made for dust. His eyes were sharp like knives, and his skin had strange red marks that glowed under the sun. He was not from this village. He did not belong. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He only stared. At her. At the silver hair. At the violet eyes. At the princess no one knew. Inside the house, Jason packed bags. He loaded food, clothes, maps. His hands shook. He had seen the ship land outside the village. Not the queen's ship, but the hunters. Jason had seen that kind before. Star takers. They didn't care about peace. They wanted power, and Lyra was power. She's not ready, he whispered. Not yet. But they were out of time. At the riverbank, Lyra turned to walk home. That's when she saw him. The strange man stood in her path. She stopped. Hello? She said. He didn't move. Do you need help? Still nothing. Then slowly he smiled. It wasn't kind, it was hungry. Jason burst through the trees, gun in hand. Step away from her! The man turned his head. Jason Ward, he said calmly. You're a hard man to find. Lyra's eyes widened. You know him? Jason didn't answer. He kept his gun raised. Who are you? Lyra asked. The man finally answered. I am the one who returns lost things to their true owners. That night, Jason and Lyra sat by the fire inside their home. He's not from here, is he? She asked. No, Jason said. He's a tracker, and he's dangerous. He said I was lost. Jason looked into the fire. Lyra, there's something you need to know about who you really are. She turned to him, heart pounding. Jason stood up, walked to a hidden drawer, and pulled out a small, glowing cube. He pressed it. A hologram flickered to life. A woman appeared. Tall, glowing silver skin, long lavender hair, a golden crown. Lyra gasped. She looks like me. Jason nodded. She's not just anyone. She's your mother. Lyra backed away. What are you saying? I found you. In a war zone, Jason said. You were 5. The Queen thought you died, but I saved you. I raised you here. I kept you safe. Tears welled in her eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because the galaxy isn't kind. They'd use you as a symbol, as a weapon. I wanted you to have a life, a real one. Lyra looked down. And now? Jason sighed. Now, they've found you. And your real mother? She's coming. On. The other side of the stars, Queen Thalara's ship reached the outer rim of the green planet. She stood by the window, gripping the toy in her hand. My daughter. I'm close, she whispered. The pilot turned. Your Majesty, we are not alone. Another vessel is already on the planet. Thalara narrowed her eyes. Is it military? No, the pilot said. Worse, it's mercenary. The Queen's heart sank. Then we must hurry. Meanwhile, the red-marked tracker sent a message through his comm. She knows. She remembers nothing. But the Queen is near. I will take the girl tonight. A voice replied, cold and echoing. Do not fail. That night, Lyra could not sleep. She stood by her window, staring up at the stars. Mother, she whispered. Are you really out there? And far above, a queen closed her eyes and whispered the same word. Daughter. The stars were still when Lyra woke before dawn. Her heart felt heavy. Her dreams were strange. Silver halls, the sound of a lullaby and a voice she didn't know but somehow remembered. A crown. Fire. A name whispered on the wind. Ziriel, she. Opened her eyes, and everything changed. Jason sat at the table, armor half worn, gun at his side. He hadn't slept. Lyra stepped in quietly. Tell me everything. No more hiding. He looked up, tired but ready. You were 5. The palace was under attack. I was a soldier, part of the peace team. I saw you running. You fell. I picked you up and I never gave you back. Why? She asked softly. Jason took a deep breath. Because your mother screamed for you as the fire rose, and no one listened. Because I didn't think anyone would protect you the way you deserved. I chose to raise you, even though it meant stealing you from a queen. Lyra sat down slowly. My name's not Lyra, is it? He shook his head. It's Ziriel, Princess Ziriel of Virelion. Her eyes filled with tears. Then why? Why do I feel like I'm no one? Jason reached out. Because your real life was taken, but the love I gave you was real. She closed her eyes. She thinks I'm dead. Jason nodded. Until yesterday. She knows now. She's coming. Suddenly, glass shattered. A flash of red lit the room. Smoke filled the house. Jason grabbed his weapon and shoved Lyra behind the table. They're here. From the smoke, a voice echoed, The girl is mine. It was the tracker. Jason fired, hitting the wall, the floor, but the man moved fast like a shadow. He kicked Jason across the room. Blood hit the wall. Lyra screamed, crawling to Jason's side. The tracker stepped into the light, face cold. She doesn't belong to you. She belongs to power. And I will take her back. To those who will use her. No, Jason coughed. She's not a thing, she's a child. The tracker lifted a blade. I don't care. Suddenly, a sound shook the sky. A ship roared above the house. It landed in the clearing outside. Golden lights shone through the trees. Guards in silver armor stormed in, and behind them, a tall woman with glowing skin and silver hair. Queen Thalara. The tracker stepped back, surprised. The queen entered with her guards, her eyes locked on Lyra. She dropped her staff. Her lips parted. Zyriel? Lyra stood slowly, tears in her eyes. Are you my mother? The queen took a step closer, trembling. Yes, my baby. Yes. Lyra collapsed into her arms. Jason, still bleeding, smiled from the floor. She found you. The tracker growled. You're too late, Queen. She's no longer yours. Thalara's voice turned to steel. She was never yours to take. In one swift move, her guard surrounded the tracker. He raised his weapon, but he was outnumbered. He vanished into the forest, wounded and chased. Back in the house, the queen held her daughter tightly. I dreamed of this, Thalara whispered. Every night I never gave up. Lyra shook in her arms. I didn't know you. I didn't know anything. You don't have to, the queen said gently. You're here now. That's all that matters. Jason tried to stand. Thalara turned to him. You took her, but you saved her. You raised her. You protected her with your life. Jason nodded, weak. I just did what any father would do. Thalara looked into his eyes. Then you are her father, too. The skies shimmered blue as the royal ship soared past the clouds. Lyra, Zyriel, sat beside the alien queen, her real mother. Her hands trembled in her lap. The stars outside the window looked different now. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was a princess returning home. But all she could think about was the man resting in the medical pod behind her. Jason, the only father she ever knew. He had saved her, raised her, fought for her, almost died for her. And now she was flying into a palace of gold, with a mother she had just met, and a world that didn't feel like home. Queen Thalara sat quietly. Her face was calm, but her eyes kept watching her daughter's reflection in the glass. So much time had been lost. So many words unspoken. I know this is strange for you, the queen said softly. Lyra didn't answer at first, then in a whisper, what if I'm not the girl you wanted? The queen turned slowly. You are more than I ever dreamed. You survived. You grew strong. You are my heart. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. Then why does my heart still hurt? The queen gently placed a hand on hers. Because love cannot be replaced. Not even by blood. The ship arrived. Giant gates opened. Alien crowds stood on glowing platforms. Cameras hovered in the air. Flowers rained from drones. Every corner of the empire celebrated. The lost princess had returned. But Lyra didn't wave. She held tightly to Jason's hand as guards helped him walk down the ramp. Whispers spread quickly. Is that a human? He raised the heir? Why is he walking beside royalty? The queen ignored them. She looked only at her daughter and the man who had given her back. Inside the palace, Lyra was shown her old bedroom, untouched, preserved, for over a decade. Toys still on shelves. A tiny crown on a velvet pillow. It didn't feel like hers. She turned to the queen. I don't remember any of this. The queen nodded sadly. Then we will make new memories together. But Lyra looked down. Not without him. Jason sat on a bench outside the hall, healing slowly. He watched soldiers walk past, staring at him with cold eyes. He didn't belong here. This was a palace of stars, of light and power, and he was just a man from a green planet who had once made a promise to a scared child. Later that night, the royal court gathered. Nobles, generals, senators, all stood around the golden throne. The queen entered, holding Lyra's hand. A wave of silence followed. I present to you my daughter, Princess Zyriel, Thalara said. The room bowed. But when Jason entered behind them, no one moved. Some looked angry, others confused. An elder stepped forward. Your Majesty, he's not of our kind. Why is he here? Queen Thalara's voice rang out. He is here, because my daughter would not have lived without him. Because without him, I would be mourning, not celebrating. She turned to Lyra. My child, the court will honor your word, if you wish him to stay. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was clear. I want him in my life. Not as a guard, not as a servant, but as my father. He raised me. He is part of me. The nobles murmured. A pause. Then the queen smiled. So it shall be. Jason lowered his head, but Lyra touched his shoulder. You don't have to bow, she said. Not to me. Not ever. And for the first time in a long while, he smiled. That night, Queen Thalera stood alone under the moons. Lyra walked up beside her. You were right, she said. About the stars. They do remember. The queen turned, surprised. You remember that? Lyra nodded. Maybe not with my head, but my heart, it never forgot you. The queen wrapped her arms around her daughter, holding her close. This time not in a dream. The grand hall was silent. The lights above flickered like stars, and the air felt heavy with expectation. Every noble, every commander, every voice of the empire had gathered, not to celebrate, but to judge. Jason Ward stood in the center. No armor, no weapons, just a man in plain clothes. Beside him stood Lyra, Princess Ziriel, her head held high, her hand tightly gripping his. And at the throne sat Queen Thalera, her face calm, but her eyes sharp with purpose. The High Judge spoke first. Jason Ward, he said, voice echoing through the chamber. You are accused of stealing royal blood, of hiding the princess, of keeping her from her own people for 12 years. What do you say in your defense? Jason didn't flinch. I didn't steal her. I saved her. Gasps moved through the crowd like wind through trees. She was lost, scared, nearly crushed. Under burning stone, no one came, no one looked. I did what I thought was right. I protected her. I raised her like she was my own. He looked at Lyra, and she is my own. One noble shouted, You had no right. Another whispered, He's just a human. A third sneered, He should be punished. Lyra stepped forward. Enough. All eyes turned to her. I was 5 years old, she said. You speak of laws. But where were your laws when I needed you? Who gave me food, shelter, and love? Not you. Not your armies. It was him. She pointed to Jason. He is not my captor. He is my father. Queen Thalera stood. Her voice was quiet, but powerful. You want to punish him, she asked, for saving my daughter? The room hushed. I once believed I had lost her forever, and for years I cried. I searched. I begged the stars. But they were silent. Until one day, I heard his voice. She looked down at Jason. He didn't return her for reward. He didn't keep her for gain. He risked his life again and again for a child who wasn't even his. That, to me, is not a crime. That is a blessing. The judge lowered his eyes. So? No punishment? The queen shook her head. No, only honor. She walked down the steps and faced Jason. Kneel. Jason hesitated. Then slowly he bent one knee. Queen Thalera placed her hand on his shoulder. By royal decree, you are now Sir Jason Ward, guardian of the royal bloodline. A golden medallion was placed around his neck. The hall remained silent, stunned. But Lyra smiled. Jason looked up, eyes shining. I'm no knight. The queen smiled back. You are now. Later that evening, as celebrations bloomed in the eye, City, Lyra, and Jason stood alone in the royal garden. Lanterns floated in the sky. Alien birds sang from crystal trees. Jason sat on a bench, watching stars. I never thought I'd see this place, he said. Lyra sat beside him. You brought me here. You made me strong enough to come. He looked at her with pride. Your mother's proud of you, Lyra smiled. I am too. They sat in silence. Then Lyra asked, Will you stay? Jason hesitated. I'm not made for palaces. She leaned her head on his shoulder. You're not leaving. He sighed with a smile. No, I'm not. Inside, the palace Queen Thalara stood at her window watching them from afar. A tear rolled down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of peace. Final scene. That night, 3 hearts slept under the same roof, queen, daughter, and the human who bound them together. Not by blood, not by duty, but by love. The stars outside twinkled brighter as if they too forgave.